Hi everyone, my name is Phyllis and I'm the owner of Mad Moody Quilting Fabrics. At the moment I'm quilting somebody's quilt and it's just doing its thing with the computer, so I thought I would take this time to do another video and just do some cutting and stuff. You can't see what I'm cutting, but I'm going to show you what I've been working on. Here is the pattern of Awesome Oceans. And I decided that I was going to do this. I don't know how long ago I started this. I'm on the last section, which is this section right here, and it's two animals. The section is a quarter of the whole quilt, and on each quarter there's 2/8, and it's broken down into quadrants of 8s. So this and this is a quadrant. Let me open the book. It will be so much easier to show. Okay, so the quadrants are like this. Okay, so you have one of each of the animals and some seaweed in each quadrant, and I happen to work in twos. So right now I have, this is Awesome Oceans from Elizabeth Hartman. So everybody does their things differently. I have a friend of mine who's doing it also, and she likes to go from animal to animal. So she will cut all 8 of whatever animal she's doing, and then she'll sew all those 8, and then she'll move on to the next. I didn't want to do it that way. I did it quadrant to quadrant. So I did these two together. So this octopus, and then I would do the octopus here. I would cut those two octopuses to get at the same time, and then I would cut. But to keep track of each animal, each unit that I have to cut, I photocopied the cutting instructions out of the book, and this way I mark for each one and then I cross out, and if I forget to cross out what I just cut, I can go back and double check it, or and cross it out after. But at least I know that as I cut each unit, I cross out, okay, I've done this one, I've done that one, I've done this one, and it's actually right here, all the cutting. Oh, my nose. Okay, so I have my 2 fabrics for the next 2 together, and I'm going to follow this layout that she gives you in her pattern. The first one I need to physically cut is this one at the bottom, because then after that I'm going to cut these. And then I'm going to cut this A, and then I'm going to cut this way. Alright, so she gives you a little layout to follow. So I folded my fabric like this. I have the 2 fabrics together, and I'm going to fold them, because down at the bottom of this, and don't forget this is going in direction, right? So down at the bottom here, I'm going to cut off my first piece, which is piece E, as like Edward. And I'm just going to line things up nicely. I have enough to be able to shave off what, you know, just to make sure that my cut is going, both my cuts are going to be straight. I'm just going to shave off a little bit. Yeah, this has been a really long endeavor, quilt. It's not something, I don't have a lot of time to quilt on my own personal things. So I try to find little pockets of time to do small little increments of stuff. So here I have E. I'm taking off E, and I only need one for each of the octopuses, and I'm cutting 2 at the same time. So I need to cut 1.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So I'm going to do the 1.5 inches because that's what I'm supposed to do on this, because it's just the small one at the bottom. So 1.5, I'm going to double check myself. E is 1.5 by 8.5. And then I'm going to cut. Now I'm sorry you guys can't see what I'm physically doing due to the fact that you're either looking at me or you're looking down, and I cannot do editing yet. I'm getting there, but I just thought I wanted to talk to you and do a little bit of filming and talk a little bit about this quilt. So now I have to cut 8.5, and actually, you know what, I think I will drop the camera down, so bear with me. I cannot do editing yet, so you're gonna see me come close, and I'm gonna move this camera around and drop it down a little bit, and so you guys can see what I'm physically doing. And I hope that's enough. Not quite enough, eh? Alright, let's try this again. Just bear with me. There we go. That's a little bit better, eh? And I'll just move that there. Yeah, that's what much better. So I have to get down like this if you're gonna see me. So you're not gonna see me anymore. You're gonna see what I'm doing down here. So I've cut off the bottom of this. I've cut a 1.5 strip. Now I'm gonna turn it, and I'm gonna cut. And I have 2 fabrics here because I'm cutting 2 of the octopuses at the same time. And I'm going to square this up. And now they say 8.5 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. Now I'm using the board to do my cuts because that's what I've done all along. Sometimes I use the other one. Alright, so that goes there and that goes there. And I'm going to go and I'm going to cross off number E, or letter E, on both sheets. So now I know that I have them. Now, most people will mark this as E, but when I sew, I keep my mat beside my sewing machine, and then I can go, okay, I'm putting this together. Oh, which one is, and I go and I measure all the pieces, and I have these sheets in front of me again when I go and start doing the actual sewing. All right, so this I'm going to put aside because I don't know if I'm going to need that, but I'm not going to get rid of it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be cutting F. Okay, so to cut F, I need to open this little guy up and fold it this way. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut, line this up, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to do it this side. Doesn't really matter which side. Alright, so I'm going to go and cut. I'm just going to square this up because I have plenty this way to do all my cuts. But I'm doing a small smidging of squaring up. You want it square up with the least amount because if you mess up, you won't have enough, and you'd have to do some fudging at that point if you mess up. Okay, so F. F is 1.5 by 6.5. So it's 6.5 tall, so 1.5. And I need to cut 4 of these. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It says cut 4 at 1.5 by 6.5. So we're going to cut 4 of these. This is 1.5. That's a half. This is another one. A half. This is 1.5. That's 3. And 4. All right, so I'm just going to slide this off there. And now I need to cut these to 6.5. Now I'm just going to stack these 4 deep. I'm just going to line these up and cut them 4 deep. So 4 layers. They're not perfectly cut, but this is what they are. All right. Now I'm just going to trim off and square this up. And now I'm going to go, what's the amount? 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. And there, these are done. So now I'm just going to split them and put them in the right piles. And then I'll take the time to cross off. Just bear with me. All right. So those are done. 4.5s are done. I'm crossing them off. And these little suckers are going to go into this pile. So I might need them, I might not. All right. So now this will fit onto this board now. Now the next cut I need to do is A. So A is 4 by 5.5. All right. Let me just double check something here. D is 5.5 by 1.5. So it's 1.5 this way, 5.5. So the first cut I do is 5.5. Now I had to check because on this piece of paper, this A, is it 5.5 this way or is it 5.5 this way? So I went and looked at D because this measurement across is the same on D as it is on A. So when I went and looked, A is 4 by 5.5. D, I went down, is 1.5 by 5.5. Now I know that this length is definitely 1.5. So A has to be 5.5 along with D. So I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut from here to here 5.5 inches. So I have this lined up against this board. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So now I'm just going to make sure that my ruler is lined up properly, and I'm going to cut the 5.5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, and this is 7. It's not quite perfect. There we go. That's much better. So it's there. Now I'm going to double check myself because I went and moved my ruler again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So we've got this done. I'm just going to cut that. So this is technically, for me, a little small. I am going to put it over there for now, but I'll probably, when I clean up, I'll probably keep the little 1.5 pieces, but throw this out. Alright, so next cut. So we're going to turn this board, and we are going to shimmy this up a little bit and make sure that it's on, and I'm going to square this edge up. Now it doesn't matter if I cut from this edge or this edge. I'm going to cut from this edge. It's just easier for me. And we're cutting 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 by 5.5. So this cut, we only need to do one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And I'm going to mark that. A is done on both sheets. Now we're going to do D. We're going to go ahead and do D, which is 5.5 by 1.5. So we're going to do 1.5, 1.5, and this has already been cut to 5.5, so that's perfect. And D is now done. So we're going to mark off D on both sheets. Now we have B and C to do. So we have 1 inch by 2.5, and then we have 1 inch by 1.5. So what is the common denominator? It is 1 inch. So we're going to cut 1 inch off of this. We're going to cut 1 inch, and then this is all put aside. So is it 1 inch? 1 inch? Yes. Okay, so now we can cut our B's and our C's off of this. So I'm just going to line this up nicely, and we're going to do B, which is 2.5, 1 and 2, and then we're going to do 2 B's. And then B is C, 2 C's. So B has been done. I'm going to cross that off. And then we're going to do C. So we're going to do 1.5. So that's a half. That's 1. And that gives me my 2 C's. So C is done now. All right. Excuse me, my throat is kind of dry. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to do these colors. So I'm actually going to double check to make sure which colors go with what. And to do that, I need to go back into the book. So they're telling me G, color G, fabric 5. So it's this rust. And then fabric H is fabric 6. So it's these 2 rusts, and then this and this. Kind of hard. Yeah. So it's these two. All right. So this, let me just double check that again. I didn't look. Okay. So this is fabric 3. Fabric 3. All right. So this is with the bright, and this is going to go with those. And I'm just going to take a look to see what, oh yeah, definitely. Oh wait, maybe not. Maybe, it doesn't make sense. You know what? I'm going to leave it the way I originally thought it would be. Is like this. Doesn't quite look the same on the picture. So I'm going to leave it like this. I think these colors work way better together than those. These I find clash, but anyways, that's my personal opinion. I like these two together with that, and I like these two together with those. All right, so we are cutting we are cutting I'm lining them up. I'm going to do 2 deep and try to get both of these cut. I cut a lot faster and I move a lot faster when I'm not filming, but I thought it would be fun to share how I cut my Elizabeth Hartman patterns and how I physically go about doing my Elizabeth Hartman patterns. All right, so I need 2 of fabric 5 for G, and I need 2 of fabric 6 for H. Oops-a-day. So I'm just going to, I should iron these. All right. Okay. And then it's 6.5. So these are already cut 1.5 inches wide ahead of time. And that was something she told you to do, is to pre-cut all the pieces that you would need for each animal to strips or to squares or whatever her instructions are. Her instructions are quite detailed, and she really does a really good job making sure that things are what they're supposed to be. And so, all right, so 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. And I have to do 2 of these cuts. So this is the first one. There we go. So that's going to go over there. That's going to go over there. And then we're going to move this up so I can do the other 6.5. And I think I'll square this off because I have leftover from this strip. Okay. And I just re-squared everything up again, because if you have the the fabric, take the time to do re-squaring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. Because this way you know that you've got a good cut when you take the time to do some extra squaring up. There we go. So that goes there. So that is almost everything cut. And I still have the dark, which is the eyes, and I think I have them in my little bin. So if I bring this up, this is how I prep my stuff. I put them in a bin. Each project is put in a bin. Things are bagged and everything. So now I'm looking for my pre-cut eyes. So I have these pre-cut, and I need one for each. No, I need 2 for each of them. So there's 2 there, and there's 2 here. So yeah, there's 2 there. So those are done, and then I just have J and K to cut for this, and then this will be ready to go. So this is done, this is done, everything is marked off, and we have everything marked off, and we're ready to go. So this here is the first 3 quarters all, well, I believe one of them is not sewn on yet. The last quarter that I did is not sewn, so it will be sewn the next time I get to the sewing machine. I'll sew it on, but this is 1 quarter. So I'm really pleased with the finished look. I'm not a huge fan of this background fabric. You look at it, it unravels. But the texture is phenomenal. The visual texture and the texture of it when you feel it, when you touch it, is really phenomenal, and the visual is really phenomenal, and that's probably why she chose it. But I'm not a fan of it because it unravels quite easily. The more you handle it, the more it unravels. It's a very loose weaved type of fabric. It is cotton. I chose not to bring this particular fabric in the store. I did have the kits of this, and this is one of the kits. I sold all the kits, and I chose not to bring anything more in of this background fabric because it's beautiful. The texture is just really pretty, but unfortunately it is a very difficult fabric to work with. But that's just my personal opinion on it. So I will finish off camera cutting, and then maybe the next time you might see me doing some sewing on this quilt. So have a good day and happy sewing. Bye.